In this video, I want to talk you through what's going on at Citigroup. Right now, there's a bunch of scandals that have been impacting them in recent years. Citigroup, a major investment bank, and they have all these type of weird dynamics with their culture and all types of accusations and cases where they're being sued. As you can see here, here's a case where Citi is being sued over abuse by this woman. You can see here, of course, we've got this slight pop up here, but I'm going to talk through her story, right? Let me just show you one time. I'm going to talk through her story in this other article here on what actually happened. And it shows you how female employees, particularly that one female employee, is flagged again and again, all types of toxic workplace dynamics for female employees specifically. And I think she's got some valid points which are worthwhile hearing out. Now, let's see what happened here. Again, everything here is alleged and speculation, just based on news articles. But let's see what's happened in her personal life here. Now, what happened was this female employee that we just saw, the blonde woman, Ardith Lindsay, right here, this woman here. She was in a relationship with this guy, right? Manny Singh, right? They were in a relationship for some time. They're both working at Citigroup, and he was in a senior role. She was in a more junior role, but she worked her way up. And he essentially was in a relationship with her, and they were dating. And there's a bunch of weird circumstances that occurred while she was there, right? So firstly, again, don't shit where you eat, don't date where you work. Otherwise, things could get very messy, as we're going to see in this messy workplace relationship at Citigroup. Firstly, I want to say is, bear that in mind, but let's move on to what's going on, right? So she was in a relationship with this senior banker, Ardith, the blonde woman we've seen, and Manny Singh, we just saw a few moments earlier. They were dating for some time, and after they were dating and they broke up, she had mental health issues. She was diagnosed with stress disorder, depressive disorder, anxiety disorder, and other types of disorders, right? The point is that to what extent this is genuine, I would raise a flag on. She's a grown adult woman. If you're in a relationship and it's toxic and you break up and you have made significant amounts of money, to what extent you can have all these type of mental issues, I would say is a bit questionable. And if these issues were going on, why didn't she flag it earlier? And again, she's working with this guy. She could, firstly, speak to her employer, Citigroup, and say she wants to work in a slightly different role or have stronger boundaries there, given her personal life. There's a breakup there, or just simply break up earlier, right? We're all grown adults. If it's not going well, you can break it up before you have all these mental health issues and things like that. Particularly if you're in a relationship that lasted years, why not flag it earlier? The relationship breaks down. She's having issues at her particular company, and then all of a sudden she starts flagging all these things she didn't like, being at the company and all the employees going to strip clubs and things like that. Now that's all of a sudden issues for her when she was going there quite openly and freely before. So it's lots of suspicious things that she seems to be blaming on other people. But we're going to go through that all here. Now, one thing I'd say is that when you're in an employment litigation situation, mental health issues are easy to fake, right? There's a series of symptoms. You can just describe them to a doctor or a psychotherapist, a psychologist, and then they can just write in their mental health report that you're a depressive person or you have anxiety. So that's easy to fake when you're dealing with employment litigation type scenarios. Just something to bear in mind. If you want to leverage that or not, that's up to you. But it just goes to show how you can really leverage it to play the victim, because it's not like a genuine illness where people can test it, in the sense it's not like someone having, I don't know, a heart attack or something like that. At least you can evidence that in a more concrete way. But if you have a mental health issue, it's harder to demonstrate that, right? It can be kind of faked in an easier way, particularly when it comes to millions of dollars you could score from an employee settlement, right? Now, again, if she was dealing with these type of negative dynamics in her relationship, she could have changed her workplace or role, worked for another company, all of these things. If it went on for years, it raises the question, why all of a sudden she started to flag this issue now? So here it says here, so she filed a lawsuit against Citigroup for gender discrimination, hostile work environment, and she says she's unable to work there, right? Again, so why did she wait years when she's been working there for a long time, saying she's unable to work after a toxic relationship? And the thing is to what extent can men do this? Can men claim gender discrimination more often than not? That's not the case. Hostile work environment, being unable to work due to a toxic relationship. There's only one time I've seen an employee who'd been able to get time off work due to a relationship breakup for several months, and it's been a female co-worker at a major American investment bank, right? Most people, you're not going to get time off work for a breakup. You're not going to be able to use that as an excuse, essentially, to be able to quit your job. Now, what she was saying throughout this instance is that during this relationship, she had all these issues with him. He was being overly friendly with her, and then all of a sudden, she felt like she was being mistreated. Before we go into the details, I want to raise a quick point about the concept of love bombing, right? Now, love bombing is something that can occur in work, in any relationship, when someone's being overly appreciative of you, overly positive with you, and they try to do that to manipulate you, right? They try to be so positive on you, love bombing, and then all of a sudden they start manipulating you and saying you're not that after they've been very positive about you. So I just want to bear this in mind and how we can describe this in the context of not necessarily just her relationship, but things to look out for in work, right? So at work, it could be when a boss, a manager, or a co-worker overwhelms you with excessive praise and attention, or give you some company perks that other employees aren't getting to manipulate you into overworking, staying loyal, or ignoring red flags, right? Often starts as fake nice flattery, but leads to control and exploitation. And by the way it sounds, she dealt with some of this from this guy who she ended up dating, who was the management at the time. It can come down to things like saying, oh, you're the best employee we had, we're going to give you lots of more opportunities and extra bonuses, title upgrades, quick promotions and things like that. And then once they give you all that positive feedback, then they'll change their tune and expect you to work late, or in certain cases, allegedly, maybe put pressure on you to sleep with management, things like that. So it's worthwhile bearing in mind, anytime anyone's overly fake nice in life in general, or overly nice, I always start to think, what's their agenda and why they're being like this? So it's problematic because it can create a false sense of security, right? It makes you feel special and valuable, and they're actually trying to manipulate you. So how should you handle this? I think you should try to recognize the pattern early, see if it seems too good to be true, because it probably is, and stay objective about your work and your personal loyalty, your personal interests versus any boundaries you need to set at work, and know when to work away if someone's being exploitative, and prioritize your own career progression over what they're trying to do to you. So let's go back to a story, right, who's accusing the management of doing something inappropriate to her, and I think she's got some fair points. She joined Citigroup, right, back in August 2007, right, and she's known this guy for over a decade, right? And then what ended up happening is she was friends with the guy back in August 2007. They'd known each other till about December 2022, and they ended their relationship in October 2022. So from August 2007 to October 2022, they had known each other, then they broke up in October 2022, and then she left in December a few months later. So what I want to say is, again, we're all adults. It's like, how can she not deal with this dynamic without having some kind of complete mental breakdown? It just doesn't add up to me personally, some of these details. So after they break up, what ends up happening is Singh, who was the guy she was dating at Citigroup, he's accused of sending Lindsay some inappropriate text, right? Barraging, threatening, and obscene texts, which were threatening to harm her children, take her down hard, reduce her pay, her compensation at work, destroying her career and reputation, right? And I've noticed these type of things. I've seen something similar in another major investment bank, which I won't name, whereby certain employees, what they do is completely crazy. This is in the context of a relationship we have here, but I've noticed it in the context of the gender reversal here. Here's a man sending toxic messages or threatening messages to a female co-worker that he was dating. I've seen it the other way, where a female co-worker didn't like the way a manager was treating her or delegating work to her. She felt like he was talking to her in a demeaning way. She would send him like very negative, groaning, grumbling text messages, complaining about that because she didn't want that on the work system. So she'd send it to his personal personal phone. So lots of people, they handle their drama through personal devices, right? And I understand in this context it's a relationship, but just as a broader point for you to learn from, be very selective. I wouldn't share my personal mobile with my co-workers, because you never know, they might send you some very negative, aggressive messages, and you don't want to create a HR issue about it. And then if you respond, then they might get into it with you and create a difficult scenario. I just wouldn't recommend sharing your personal mobile with your co-workers. You have a work mobile that the company should give you if they want you to be available outside of work hours when your laptop's not on. Or you should just be selective with who you share messages with, and if you're going to respond or not. If someone sends you a text message and it's inappropriate, just next time you're in the office, just say, oh, sorry, I don't really use my personal mobile to deal with work matters. If we can discuss it in the office or through email, that's better. things like that. Just be careful. There's all sorts of instances where things related to work, business, $1 million or $1 billion business transactions I've seen discussed on WhatsApp, which is another major scandal in the finance industry. Just be careful around sharing your personal email or discussing work-related matters on your personal phone. So what ended up happening, he was threatening her through text messages after they broke up, that he was going to ruin her life, essentially, ruin her reputation and career in the industry. And then she said all types of other things had occurred that was quite inappropriate, right? She was saying that during a Christmas party, there was an assault, and she has allegations around that back in 2007. And again, she says it's pervasive throughout the equities trading floor of Citigroup. So again, these things, the way it seems like is this. She was known this guy from 2007 to October 2022. They'd been dating for many years throughout that. December 2022, she leaves the company, and then all of a sudden, all the little slights she noticed at the company, she's trying to sue them over, right? So if you noticed something inappropriate happen at a London Christmas party back in 2007, and you're flagging it in like 2022, 2023 in an employment lawsuit, it's like, so you were clearly okay with it for over a decade. Now you're flagging it to us. Why are we okay with it? And we're going to see many other instances of this where they were just putting up with this. Like, if you're a strong, brave career woman, then you should stand up for that. Or you should just kind of think, it just seems very hypocritical to flag these things over a decade later, when it just seems like you're going scorched earth on a company, even though some of these points do seem quite valid, right? And one thing to learn from this again, nothing good can come from work drinks. You're going to see co-workers behave inappropriately, and then you could get dragged into that. One instance I recall where co-workers had a physical fight because two male co-workers were drunk, female co-workers taking off some of their clothes, completely ridiculous, weird stuff. So just be careful. Nothing good can come from work drinks. You should, if you're going to work drinks and you have to go, you should arrive on time, have one drink, have some general discussion with people, and leave early, right? And have a legitimate reason why you have to leave early, like maybe, you've got a family visiting from out of town and you've got to spend some time with them, and they're not in town for too long, so you have to spend your time with them. You can't really skip that to spend more time at work drinks, and just leave early. There's nothing good is going to come. It's just going to be gossip, people venting their emotions. One of the funniest instances I remember early on in my career, there was a female co-worker, and again, you know which demographic, AWFL, affluent white female liberal, quickly promoted to management roles. I've seen that time and time again, particularly early on. I remember seeing that. And then she was moving from a role in London to a role in New York, and the work drinks just turned into her and the other female co-workers, and she was talking how she can't find a man to be in a long-term relationship with, and she wants to have kids, but she's focused on her career. And some of the female co-workers were like crying and venting their emotion, even though it's meant to be a happy work drinks, like a leaving party, because she's moving to a even more role, because she was on this accelerated career path as a, affluent white female liberal, which is, it's just right. I mean, me as a man, why would I go there? What interest do I have? I remember being there, just kind of leaving early. Like, it was a bit ridiculous being there in the first place, right? So we're going to talk about like what actually was going on here, right? So she mentioned these inappropriate activity at the party, inappropriate text messages, and Citigroup is trying to protect themselves and saying, well, actually, we didn't do anything inappropriate here, right? We were kind of following the rules. We essentially interviewed her and looked into this and tried to identify what was actually going on in these particular dynamics, right? She portrayed her relationship with a female co-worker as going quite well, right? Essentially, she was in a relationship with this guy. He had lost some money, 200 grand throughout the relationship, which is kind of high amount, right? They were dating for some time, and she always described him as quite well to the company until he was getting quite sour. Then she started essentially saying, he's sending me negative text messages, he's doing this, he's right. So this is what I want to tell you. It's like, just be careful, like, what is the dynamic you have with co-workers outside of just a relationship, right? And the company obviously is going to protect itself. They're not going to care about what's going on in your personal life if you have an issue with another male or female co-worker, right? The Citi is saying that the bank considered Singh, the male employee, in the report as deplorable, but saying Lindsay, the female co-worker, had conflicting accounts on a relationship with him. When questioned several years ago about the financial transaction when he was lending her large amounts of money, hundreds of thousands of dollars, she said he was a friend, and then she said the relationship they had was consensual and things like that. and then saying he had sent her negative text messages. So this is what I mean, right? It's so easy for a woman to play the victim, and this is why you shouldn't date at work, right? One minute she's happy for you to lend her $200,000. Another moment she's in a normal relationship with you. She wants to make it public, doesn't want to make it public. When it's convenient, she's a victim. The company is going to come down hard on you. And even if there's not a lot of evidence, your reputation will be destroyed and you'll be pushed to kind of resign. And that's what he ended up doing, resigning. I don't think he's completely innocent, though. I think there is definite instances where inappropriate things had gone on. But you're not going to get wall-to-wall coverage like this article here from the New York Times saying that you're an innocent victim if you're a man, right? If you're a woman, you can play the victim and get away with it. So let's see this actual legal document that's come out demonstrating what exactly has gone on between. It says the trauma that Lindsay had endured as a Citi employee began in 2007, just weeks after she started as a junior employee at the bank. Senior equities executive Richard Evans, so she's going through and listing different employees, which really shows you how crazy and toxic this company appears to be, Citigroup, right? So another employee called Richard Evans assaulted her. That's what she's saying back in 2007. Even though she reported the incident, the bank did not take any action. Now, how are we describing assault, right? Was it touching her inappropriately? I don't know what exactly that involves, but I mean, to what extent she's raising these issues at the time and these aren't being addressed, I don't know, right? It's saying that Citi failed to act when she raised these issues and it created an unsafe work culture, which I think, given, as we're going to go through this, so many different instances, there clearly is some kind of trend at Citigroup, at least based on these allegations and speculation, that something really inappropriate is going on at this company. Next up, we have Singh, who was the guy she was dating. Singh used his position of authority to threaten and harm Lindsay and her family, and coerced Lindsay into having a relationship with him for years. After she ended the toxic relationship with Singh in October 2022, Singh had subjected Lindsay to many negative text messages and kind of was harassing her, right? And it kind of shows in this case how much power they have to kind of manipulate their employees, right? This way you shouldn't date your manager effectively, right? Because if they're going to text you insulting messages and you can't really respond because they're not like someone you know outside of work, then it could impact your career. And he says some completely crazy things here. Let's look at some of these text messages: threatening to end Lindsay, threatening to set Lindsay on fire, doing things to her children. I'm not going to repeat some of this wording. Describing her as a promiscuous woman, let's put it nicely. Saying that, calling her the S word, the 4-letter S word, the 5-letter B word, and then all these type of things, right? Attacking her reputation, planning to ruin her life, reduce her salary, things like that. So telling her that, focus on effing or focus on sleeping with more accounts, like more clients. So maybe she was sleeping around with the clients. I don't know, right? But the point is, it's just like, this is how you got to set a clear boundary between you and the co-workers and what's going on at work, right? Given that there's consistently making comments about, her appearance, her body, and saying that she's barely top 10 in the office for a trading floor, and things like that. The point is, a lot of these so-called professional work environments where you wouldn't believe how much, when I was working at a particular investment bank, particular trading floor, they were beating men over the head with this hashtag Me Too type of thing. Women need more empowerment. Women need more special treatment. And openly, some of the women were one in particular, a sales managing director, she was talking about sleeping around with some of the clients or her management earlier in her career. She was just telling us, just as a general discussion point on the trading floor. And I wouldn't be surprised if some of the other women, and they typically do pick a lot of women in sales roles, I don't know, to flirt with the clients, sleep with the clients, I don't know. But it's like there is this weird dynamic where they're telling you consistently as men to be restrained, to don't say anything inappropriate, don't look at a woman inappropriately. Whereas on the other case, it's like some of these women are leveraging their looks to get clients, to sleep around with clients or management to benefit their career. And there's clear biases there. Like you can sense it and read in between the lines as a man that some of the special treatment they are getting. And then sometimes it can backfire like this, right? They have a breakup, it gets messy, and then all of a sudden it starts impacting her career. So, I mean, I'm in two minds about this. I think she's probably making some valid points. It's all speculation, of course, but it's like, to what extent did that benefit her career, sleeping with the management, 2017, a desk head used a book of Citi first-year analyst headshots to rank the hotness of female analysts. Singh and other male managers, including Bell Bachir, the global head of equities, discussed, sleeping around with other women. And I think this is kind of inappropriate things, right? If you're going to have a ranking amongst management, who they're ranking the new female employees coming in, who's the least attractive, it shows the objectification of female employees, but also how management can get away with this. Like, if you're a more rank and file male employee, you're not going to get away with that, of course. It's really a thing that management typically get away with. And again, I'm not saying those things are right, but to what extent did this benefit her? I just have a hard time believing that she wasn't benefiting or engaging with sleeping with clients or her management to benefit herself. So around 2016, 2017, some of the more senior male traders encouraged junior traders to show things while at the desk at work, like showing underwear of women that they have slept with, things like that, right? And one thing is, I agree that those things were inappropriate, but it's like when you have male bonding, there typically will be inappropriate jokes, politically incorrect comments. I think that's too far, having underwear of a woman you slept with the previous night, bringing that to the office at your desk, right? But it's like, that's the type of ridiculous banter you might have amongst male employees. But then when you have male and female employees there, of course, certain things are going to be considered inappropriate. And this is what I mean. Like, the workplace environment is such an unnatural environment. Because if you have an all-male environment, you're going to have locker room talk, things that women might be considered inappropriate. The same thing when you have women in an all-woman environment. But when you have like genders mixed, you're going to have all types of different standards, and not only just genders, but then race and then religions and things like that. So it's kind of a weird one where when you're in a high pressure trading environment, particularly on a trading floor, people will let off a lot of steam by joking around a lot. But then when you have all these different rules of what's appropriate, what's inappropriate, it can kind of lead to a lot of grey areas. But I definitely agree that was kind of inappropriate. She's going to work and male employees have some female's underwear on the desk and they're joking about sleeping around with her, Then we have another case where it says male members on the desk, including managers, openly joked about a female who was part of the rainbow flag community about what was going on in her personal life. They were talking about crawling under her desk and turning her straight. And even though the environment was kind of toxic and offensive, essentially, people just kind of put up with it. Essentially, the way it sounds here is lots of men working at Citigroup on the trading floor making inappropriate comments about women, the way they look, their personal lives, their gender orientation, if you want to call it that, and just a lot of the women end up kind of putting up with it, right? And there wasn't any consequences for them, which I think, look, if you've got this many examples, it seems like there is a valid case here. But at the end of the day, the question becomes, why didn't she flag it earlier? Because she was making a lot of money by just playing along with it, right? Or she was sleeping around and it was benefiting her. I would say if we've got the next example here, right? In or around 2019, a group of Citi colleagues asked Lindsay to go to 11, which is a strip club in Miami, around the time of a Citi-hosted conference. She objected, but her colleagues were persistent. As the only objector, she eventually acquiesced, and she went to this strip club because she felt like she had no choice but to endure another demeaning and unprofessional situation. Now, going to strip clubs is quite common in the finance industry. It's just not talked about as much now compared to previous instances. And I know many instances where this is what I mean about there being a very harsh reality for lots of men in society. And I know this sounds like women are being women most affected, or how am I bringing men into this? Let me explain. Lots of men in senior management roles, they have a very special dynamic, special in quotation marks, with the female employees, right? So you'll have older male employees, younger female employees, and they might go to strip clubs. They might go to a burlesque show, which I heard an instance of that at one investment bank I was working at. They might go to private clubs, private networking clubs, or gentlemen's clubs. But the vast majority of men who are working at the same level as these women, they're not invited to that, right? Those men are considered low status. The senior management have no interest in really benefiting them. So you have older men and younger women, older middle management, senior middle management men, going out, basically taking the younger woman out in the office to strip clubs, sleeping around with them, and these women getting promoted quicker. There's a whole reality there that most men aren't seeing because they're considered lower status or they have to work hard to climb the corporate ladder. Whereas you've got plenty of very suspicious instances where a lot of these younger women are sleeping around, going to strip clubs, pretending that they're super professional and effective at the job, or they're playing, even that they're playing the social game at work. But a lot of the social game is being sleeping around with senior management, right? And those type of things don't get admitted unless you're on a channel like Economics Ethan, and I'm keeping it real with you because this industry has a lot to pay for in terms of its lies, and I'm going to make sure justice is done. So, during the event, Evans, right, who was pressuring Lindsay, so this senior male employee at Citigroup called Evans, pressured Lindsay, this female employee we're covering here, who's launching this lawsuit against Citigroup. He encouraged her to stay out late and drink excessively, including threatening to get rid of her if she went home, right? As in fire her if she went home. He thought he could threaten her effectively, and she was worried because there were layoffs going on around the time, and she thought that she could be subject to the layoff too, essentially. So he was just threatening her to drink more and party more with her, leveraging job security to put her under a lot of pressure to be in these uncomfortable or unsafe situations. So, this is, again, we've got so many instances here. We're going to smoke this company right now. The point here really is, I want you to kind of be aware of this. If you're maybe a female watching the channel, I know it's majority men, but if you're female watching this channel, you should be aware of, like, when you're aware of these high power career opportunities, you might think you're missing out. You have to be aware of what the actual dynamic is, particularly if you're a younger woman. If you're maybe an older woman, maybe they want you there just to do the job. But if you're a younger woman, these are the type of dynamics you might have to deal with, right? And this is a major so-called investment bank that cares so much about female empowerment, and in reality, they care about female empowerment from a superficial perspective, a bit like Hollywood, right? I'm sure a lot of the women in Hollywood are sleeping around with the Weinsteins of the world to get their opportunities, and then they go on about female empowerment. If you look at some of these celebrity actresses and how much they were all falling over themselves to get all over Harvey Weinstein before the scandal because they knew it would benefit their career. So just bear that in mind about what's actually going on here. Here we have Singh on multiple occasions expressly threatened Lindsay. If she left him, he would end her, ruin her career or her reputation, and he made a lot of threats to her, and if he felt that she was creating distance between herself and him, right? So you've got this junior female employee, a male employee who's more senior, they're in a relationship, and effectively he says that she has to basically continue to be in a relationship with him, otherwise he could kind of ruin her career and things like that, or end her. So he's like being a complete psychopath with her. So this is the thing, the devil always comes to collect, which means if you're a woman and you're going to be sleeping around with management, it could backfire. You could think, oh, it's working for you now, you're getting promoted quickly, big bonuses, you're getting special treatment in the office, you're doing less work. But there are instances where it can backfire, and then all of a sudden you're regretting it, right? It's more than just simple harassment, career sabotage, and it might not always be legitimate. And I've known many female employees at big four firms, which I won't mention, major investment banks, who've been open with me about sleeping with management to benefit their career, or just describing it matter-of-factly to me and others on the trading floor, right? So it's not this kind of rare thing. That's why it's hard for me to feel sorry for someone like this. It's like, are they complicit with it? Did they actually benefit from it? It seems suspicious, and they'll always typically have a particular look. There are lots of women in sales teams that have this look, and I know that look, and it's not really someone who's necessarily an innocent bystander, and they don't know what they're getting involved in and things like that. I don't believe it that much. So we've got another video coming up, right? We've actually, all alleged and speculation here, of course. We've gone through a lot of these details. This is a publicly available document, by the way, if you want to have a deep read, right? So this was filed on the 20th of November 2023 between Ardith Lindsay and Citigroup Global Markets. So you can have a look at it and read it for yourself and learn about how wonderful Citigroup's work culture is, and how apparently, there's clearly a lot of fun times going to strip clubs, using women, apparently, how much they care about female empowerment. I think all they really care about, these big companies, again, just alleged and speculation, they just want to lower the population growth and lower the birth rate. That's why they're beating down men, the majority of men, 80% of men, if you want to call it that, and convince men and women to be in very divisive gender war type of dynamics. So they've broken that, but the men at the top are sleeping around with a lot of the younger women, that they're telling the younger woman not to date the other men because they're losers or low status, or that they're not successful, however you want to describe it, but they're sleeping around with them at the same time. So it's a very tricky, interesting dynamic, but you know me, I'm going to expose the frauds for what they are. So if you're interested in career coaching and you see the reality of the corporate world, let me know. There's a link in the description if you want to speak with me directly. I will help you find a path from your current career status to absolute freedom, outsmarting office politics, surviving and thriving toxic work dynamics, being a man in the workplace when you're dealing with these type of unfair special treatment for maybe female co-workers, or even if you're a woman and you're dealing with very crazy management tactics like we see here, how to prepare for promotions, lucky layoffs, and how to have long-term financial stability so you're not dependent on a crazy manager who's trying to date you to in your career. Link in description if you want to speak with me directly. Let me know in the comments how you feel about this story. It's a bit controversial, but you know, that's what we're here for. Thanks for listening. 2 recommended videos on the screen right now.